resources. Enough about that. Let's talk about forward head posture. This is a huge topic nowadays because you see most people walking around like this. Whether they have this type of kyphosis posture, they can still be here and have forward head posture, but the bottom line is your auditory meatus, which is this hole, just in front of that, that's the center of gravity for the head, right? So if you put a plumb line through the side of my body, the line should run right through the ear of the auditory meatus, which is the hole in the shoulder. Most people's heads are forward like this, in front of the plumb line. So when that happens, many things happen. The center of gravity moves forward. So what happens is the muscles in the back of the neck, which are always working against gravity, these are your extensor muscles, actually become lengthened. And when they become lengthened, they develop a lot of tension. Just if I took an elastic and I pulled it out, it's lengthened and there's tension in it. So these muscles are always working against gravity to make sure the head doesn't fall off the shoulders. These muscles, the flexors, are always working with gravity because they're actually in front of the center of gravity. That's why when you fall asleep, your head a lot of the times falls forward. So as the head goes forward, there's a problem with that. Every inch the head moves forward, the head doubles in body weight, or weight per se. So let's say you weighed 100 pounds. The head weighs about 8% of your body weight, so it's 8% in neutral, or 8 pounds in neutral. Every inch it moves forward, it doubles in weight. Now the check-ins too, we say normal head is about 0 to 3 centimeters. We use a specific tool. Anything in front of that is forward head posture. I've been measuring people 4, 5, 6 centimeters forward. I'm not a mathematician, so I can't tell you in inches what that is, but I know it's forward. If you want to do the math on that, see how much your head weighs, go for it. There's more problems with this. As the head goes forward, the cranium has to rotate like this to see where you're going at all times. Head always wins. Ears, vision, mouth, breathing. This is how you live, and this is your sensory input, right? Without eyes, if I'm standing here, I have good balance. If I close my eyes, it might challenge my balance. So all these things tell us where our body is in space. So as the head moves forward, the head has to rotate backwards to see where you're going. That's going to develop a lot of tension in the suboccipital muscles at the base of the skull. That's why most people get headaches, because those muscles refer to the front of the head. These are what we call trigger points. So that's point number 1. Some issues that you can have in forward head posture. At the same time, as the head goes forward, you'll develop trigger points in these elongated muscles. Now, this is where massage therapy does not come into play. This is why I taught myself neuromuscular therapy. Because most massage therapists will go, let me release that because it hurts. And you go, oh, I have increased tension here, it hurts. The problem is your body lays down these soft tissue adhesions to strengthen this area because it's weakened. So if you basically work on and release those trigger points, or like knots, you're releasing the very thing that's holding your body and strengthening your body so your head doesn't go forward anymore. So you should not release those. You actually need to strengthen those and stretch the flexors. At the same time as the head goes forward and the cranium rotates, you develop these soft tissue areas that cause pain. You can develop headaches and things like that. The rib cage, what we call the upper quarter, actually drops. We call this the front panel. So if I'm here, the front panel is this angle, right? As my head goes forward, the front panel drops. When that front panel drops, it overloads this joint here, right? This is called the sternoclavicular joint. It also overloads the AC joint in the shoulder. The humerus rotates forward. So now you can end up with capsular issues, shoulder problems, issues in the SC joint. And you see this a lot in people when they do incline bench presses. The first place they get shoulder pain is here and here because of this posture. So as their front panel drops, it depresses the rib cage, right? Increases what we call thoracic kyphosis, and it overloads the respiratory system. Okay, so now you have the respiratory dysfunction. You start to overuse your accessory muscles of respiration, like your scalenes, other muscles, but we'll simplify it. Scalenes go from your cervical spine to your ribs. So when you're running, they lift the ribs so you get more air in. So if you're like this, now you have to breathe more in the lower part of your lungs and overuse these accessory muscles 40,000 times a day instead of 20,000 times a day, which can lead to trigger points, overuse syndromes, and injury. And you develop altered respiratory patterns. So you end up chest breathing versus diaphragmatically breathing. So you create an inverted breathing pattern. At the same time, that can cause gastrointestinal problems, because every time you breathe, you inhale, the stomach goes out this way, and this way, and this way. You actually massage the organs. If you're like this, you chest breathe, you don't massage the organs, you create stasis here, You create constipation from a respiratory problem, from forward head posture, on and on and on and on and on. At the same time, as the head goes forward, the rib cage drops, and you end up with a respiratory problem. All these muscles start to lengthen, and the body will start to adapt in this plane of, in this, I should say, plane of gravity. So a lot of the muscles in the low back start to be over-recruited, which can cause decompression and degeneration in the discs and in the bones itself. So you can see how forward head posture can cause musculoskeletal problems, migraines, it can cause disc problems in the neck, degeneration in the low back, respiratory problems, constipation. There's so many more things that increase forward head posture can cause. We could go on and on and on, from shoulder problems to hip problems, you name it. But the bottom line is you'll end up with musculoskeletal problems, neck pain, low back pain, respiratory problems, constipation, you name it. So what we'll do is we'll show you some basic exercises. Keep in mind, this is all individualized. When we work with people, we take 2 to 4 hours to assess them to figure out why they have forward head posture. We're going to give you some basic exercises that can be included in your program along with other exercises. But keep in mind, always consult with your practitioner before doing these, because you might not need it. Just to reiterate, always consult with your practitioner before doing these. Even though they don't look intense, they're actually quite demanding on the central nervous system. They can be quite fatiguing and actually complicate your issues. So always make sure with your practitioner that you should be doing this. First one's called a wall lean. You need a wall, you're going to be leaning against it. You can always use a towel to protect the head. The goal with this is basically 3 minutes time and attention. So what I mean by that is your goal is to hit 3 minutes. So you probably want to start with about 15 seconds on with a 5-second relax. And if you do the math on that, it's about 12 reps. Doesn't mean you do 12 reps right off the bat. You might do 3 sets of 4 reps. Hope you're understanding me with this. But your goal is always 3 minutes time and attention. If you worked up, you did 15 seconds and 5 seconds off, then you worked up to 30 seconds on, of course you do 30, 30, 30. Basically you do 2, 4, 6 reps. And you might do 1 set of 6, you might do 2 sets of 3. Just depends on the person. Everything's individualized. The goal in the end with people with serious problems is a 3-minute hold, but you don't always have to go to a 3-minute hold. These are people with serious neck issues, maybe someone, NASCAR racers, things like that. So what you want to do is put the towel against the wall, the back of your head, okay? The goal is to have your body almost like a flagpole leaning against the wall. So you want your foot about a foot from the wall, or both feet. Arms against the side. You want to tuck the chin. Keep the eyes always looking at the belly button. That'll pull on the dura mater of the spinal cord to help keep the spine in neutral. What you want to do next is keep the tongue of the roof of the mouth. That'll actually activate the core of the muscles in the neck. And then the next thing you want to do is basically lean against the wall. You don't want to arch yourself like this because you see them kind of bowed. And you don't want to be like this. You don't want to keep your shoulders against the wall and do that. You're basically head neutral, eyes looking at the belly button, tongue of the roof of the mouth, not talking, arms here, leaning against the wall, holding for 15 seconds. You want to make sure your ankle, knee, hip, elbow, shoulder, ear in alignment. You don't want to be here. You don't want to be too bowed this way. It's just a lean. You don't want to go too far. This exercise puts tons of strain on the neck. So when you come off slowly, because you get this really weird feeling. That's why I said start with 15 seconds on, 5-second relax. Do that for maybe 3 sets of 4 reps to build up the long cervical extensors, which will pull your head back here, and it'll actually stretch those short cervical extensors of the suboccipitals that get tight with this type of position. I'm going to show you, one's called a prone cobra, the next one's called an alternating Superman, and the next one is called bilateral prone hip extension. Now, it's really individualized who you do this with. This is great for people with thoracic kyphosis, forward head posture, people that have a flat low back, because this will increase the lumbar curve, people that have issues with recruiting the entire extensor chain, meaning the glutes, the erector spinae, and the hams. But the goal is you're keeping your head in neutral. So you're actually strengthening the long cervical extensors, stretching the flexors, and stretching these short cervical extensors, which is the suboccipitals. So you're getting a strengthening and a stretching at the same time. Same thing with these 3. Your goal is 3 minutes time and attention. How you want to periodize that, it's based on the client. But if anything, always start with 15 seconds, 5 seconds off. Do that for 3 reps, and you can do it for 4 sets. You can work up from there. So the first one is prone cobra. The goal, now you won't know this, but the bottom line is, if you know you have tight glutes, relax it when you do this. And if you know that you have an anterior rotated pelvis and glutes that don't work, you want to squeeze your glutes when you do this. Okay, it's just a little modification. Arms by your side. You want to lift the chest, rotate the thumbs back. You want to try to squeeze your shoulder blades together and depress them. And you're going to hold that for 15 seconds. Now the key on this is head neutral, looking straight down, tongue to the roof of the mouth, and breathing. You don't want to be way up here. You don't want your feet off the ground. You don't want to be here. You're up here. Head's not here. Head's not back here. Neutral with chin tucked. That's going to strengthen not only your mid-back muscles, but the long cervical extensors to help with forward head posture. The next one is bilateral trunk hip extension. This is more of a sagittal plane movement, which is like flexion extension. Arms up at about, this is like 45 degrees. Legs and arms come up at the same time. You're contracting everything from your thumbs to your big toe. Head neutral, same position. Tongue to the roof of the mouth. Not back here, not down here. Just neutral, holding for the allotted time that the practitioner is giving you. The last one, which actually looks easier, but it's actually a progression because you're using opposite arm and leg, which actually rotates your spine in the transverse plane. So it's actually more complex than what I just showed you. Same position, you're just going to lift the opposite, don't push off, keeping the head neutral, tongue to the roof of the mouth, down. Up, hold for 15, don't bend the knee, keep it straight, arms straight, don't let it roll in. Head not here, neutral, down. And you follow that sequence for 15 on, 5 off. You can do 3 reps, 4 sets. You can do 4 reps, 3 sets. Always going for that 3 minutes time and attention. Now last but not least, probably one of the best ways to strengthen the long cervical extensors is anytime you're exercising, whether you're doing a shoulder press, a deadlift, a squat, it doesn't matter what you're doing, always keep your head in neutral. The body always wants to recruit the muscles that are short. It's always going to throw neurological input to those muscles. So if you bench press, you're always going to want to go like that. If you shoulder press, you're always going to go like that. So always try to keep your head in neutral, and that's going to strengthen the long cervical extensors, stretch the muscles that you need to be stretched, but also teach your body how to move in neutral instead of always facilitating this position. Thanks for tuning in. Josh from Musculoskeletal Performance. Pleasure meeting with you.